In August 1704, one battle changed the fate of Europe. If it had gone the other way, Vienna would have fallen. The Holy Roman Empire might have collapsed, and France could have dominated the continent. This was the Battle of Blenheim. At the start of the 18th century, Europe was at war over a crown. In 1700, King Charles II of Spain died without an heir. The Spanish throne passed to Philip of Anjou, the grandson of King Louis XIV of France. If France controlled Spain, it would become the most powerful empire in Europe. Britain, the Dutch Republic, and the Holy Roman Empire could not allow that to happen. They formed the Grand Alliance. The war that followed became known as the War of the Spanish Succession. By 1704, the situation was critical. French and Bavarian armies were advancing along the Danube River. Their objective was Vienna, the capital of the Holy Roman Empire. If Vienna fell, the alliance would collapse. France would win the war. The man responsible for stopping this disaster was John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough. Marlborough commanded the Allied army in the Netherlands. Everyone expected him to stay there and defend Dutch territory. Instead, he made a daring decision. In May 1704, Marlborough secretly marched his army more than 250 miles south. He crossed the Rhine and moved toward the Danube. He misled both his enemies and his allies. Many believed he was abandoning the Netherlands. In reality, he was racing to save Vienna. In June 1704, Marlborough joined forces with Prince Eugene of Savoy. Prince Eugene was the Holy Roman Empire's most talented general. The two men had never worked together before, but they trusted each other completely. Together, they planned to confront the Franco Bavarian army in southern Germany. By August, the armies met near a small Bavarian village called Blenheim. The English called it Blenheim. The battlefield lay between the Danube River and a small stream known as the Nebel. The Allied army numbered about 52,000 men. British, Dutch, Austrian, Prussian, and German troops stood side by side. The Franco-Bavarian army had around 56,000 men. It was commanded by Marshal Camille de Hostoun, Duke of Tallard. Alongside him were the Elector of Bavaria, Maximilian II Emmanuel, and Marshal Ferdinand de Marsan. The French believed their position was strong. They were wrong. Before dawn on August 13, 1704, the battle began. The Allied army advanced across the Nebel under heavy fire. Marlborough commanded the left and center. Prince Eugene commanded the right. Early in the battle, Marlborough ordered attacks on the village of Blenheim. These assaults were led by Lord John Cutts. The fighting was brutal. The Allies suffered heavy casualties, but the attacks had a purpose. Marshal Tallard panicked. He kept sending more infantry into Blenheim to defend it. Soon, nearly 10,000 French soldiers were trapped inside the village. They were overcrowded. They could not maneuver, and they could not support the rest of the army. Tallard had weakened his own center. On the Allied right, Prince Eugene faced fierce resistance near the village of Lutzingen. French and Bavarian troops attacked again and again. Eugene's forces were outnumbered. They took heavy losses, but they did not break. Their resistance prevented the French from reinforcing their center. This delay would prove decisive. By late afternoon, Marlborough saw his moment. The French center was exposed. He ordered a massive cavalry assault across the Nebel. British, Dutch, and German cavalry charged in waves. The clash was violent and chaotic. The French cavalry fought hard, but they lacked infantry support. Under constant pressure, their lines collapsed. French soldiers began to flee. Marshal Tallard was captured during the retreat. The French army was breaking apart. With the center destroyed, the troops trapped in Blenheim were isolated. They were surrounded. They had no escape. As evening approached, Allied infantry stormed the village. After intense fighting, the French commander inside Blenheim surrendered. Nearly 10,000 French soldiers laid down their arms. It was one of the largest mass surrenders of the early modern period. By nightfall, the battle was over. French and Bavarian losses were devastating. Around 27,000 men were killed, wounded, or captured. The Allied army lost roughly 12,000. But the victory was complete. Bavaria was knocked out of the war. Vienna was saved. The myth of French invincibility was shattered. Marlborough wrote a short message to his wife Sarah from the battlefield. He said he had no time to write more, only that the army had achieved a glorious victory. That victory echoed across Europe. The Battle of Blenheim changed history. It stopped French expansion. It preserved the Grand Alliance, and it proved that Louis XIV could be defeated. For Britain, it marked the rise of one of the greatest generals in history. For Europe, it prevented a single empire from dominating the continent. Blenheim was not just a clash of armies. It was a clash of decisions. One side played defensively, the other took a calculated risk. And in that risk, Europe's future was decided. History does not always turn on numbers. Sometimes it turns on the courage to gamble everything in a single day.